So the last thing we did last class was we started working on our Husky class. So let's take a second to diagram where we're at here. Okay? We know that a class, if we draw a class, consists of properties and methods. That's how we started this unit. So this must seem kind of a pain now that I keep talking about it. But that's how we started. This is that a class consists of properties and methods. Okay? So the class we've made first was the person class. So a person is a collection of properties and methods. So we did that first. Okay? Then, oops. What did I do there? Undo. Infinity cloner. There we go. So now we've made another class called the student class. And a student is a person. So there is some inheritance happening here. That a student is a, that's what the inheritance means, is a person. But now we've created another class called a Husky. And Husky was short for a Sturgeon Heights student. And a Sturgeon Heights student is a student, which is a person. So we have a more complicated class relationship. But each class has its own properties and methods. But the Husky class inherits properties and methods from student, which inherited it from person. So we have a lot of that happening. So we saw that in our code, that when we used the Husky and asked it to talk, that method talk came from the student class, which also came from the person class. The reason we do this inheritance as well is to keep improving on the classes. So a Husky also has a property called pride. We locked that property using encapsulation by making it private, and we wrote a constructor which calls the superconstructor of its superclass student. So here again, I'm using those words, and I hope they have a little bit of meaning to you based on the couple classes we've been working on this. All right, let's add some methods to our Husky class. Let's add a public method, void, pep rally. Isn't that what, do we call it that? Actually, don't we call it student recognition assemblies here at Sturgeon? That's what they call it. Isn't that a terrible name? Shouldn't we just call them pep rally? Doesn't that sound better? It just sound, I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to write student recognition assembly. That's just way too much. So when we have a pep rally, pride happens. And since you guys made pride a Boolean variable, pride is true on a pep rally. Now, when does a Husky lose their pride? Exams? Is it exams? All right, let's do it. Public void exams. Pride equals false. There we go. And then finally, one more method, a talk method. Public void talk. Now, this is a special method. You may remember we talked about this last time. We already have a talk method. We have one in the student class, and we have one in the person class. When you write a method like this, you're doing what's called an override. You are overriding, this method is overriding the other one. So let's write it in a similar fashion. Let's say super.talk. So we talk first as a student, and then we'll do an output. We'll do a tab character first, and then we'll say, do I have pride? The answer is, and we'll attach the variable pride. So it's going to say, do I have pride? The answer is yes or no. This will only happen if a Husky talks. When a Husky talks, that answer will come out. So if you remember, the last code we wrote yesterday was to tell our Husky to talk. So let's see what happens now when I call that talk method of the Husky class. Let's wait and see. Of course, it's a little slow. All right, here it is. I am Havoc Husky. I am 9 years old. If you're wondering if I am a male, the answer is false. But wait, I'm not finished yet. My student number is 2665, and my average is 3.0. Do you guys remember why I made the student number 2665 and the average 3.0? No? That's our address, and why 3.0? You don't remember. That's okay. Do I have pride? The answer is true. Okay? But let's change that. Let's go to our testing class. And before our Husky talks, husky.exams. Remember, exams gives you no pride. So now when I run it, the answer is false. But I can do more with Havoc the Husky than just exams. I can, for example, say husky.cram. I can cram before my exams. Oh, wait, before I do that, I can slack off before I cram. I can, before that, have a birthday. I can have my birthday. Maybe that's why I'm slacking off, because of my birthday. And wait, one more, husky.operation. So now when I play this, let's think about all the things that are happening. Operation is from the person class. It changes the gender, which is locked in and encapsulated. Birthday is in the person class. It's a method that increases the age. Slack off is a method inside the student class that decreases the average. Cram is a method inside the student class, which calls upon the study method over and over again to increase the average. Exams is a method of the Husky class, which changes our pride to no pride. And finally, talk, which is a method of all three classes using overrides to output all kinds of information. If we go back to the very first line, this is where we create a Husky object from the Husky class using a constructor method with parameters. And if you understood what I just said, you have learned a ton of computer science this year, because that's a lot of vocabulary I just threw out there. But let's forget the vocabulary. I have a proposed experiment. I'm going to pause the video because I don't think this needs to go on the video. So just one sec. I do. Okay, so now we know what's going on here. We're getting good at working with classes. Here's what I'm going to introduce now. Let's add another class. This class is a person. Okay? So another class that is a person, and we're going to call it the teacher class. So a teacher is a person, but here's another connection. This teacher associates with students. It's not inheritance. It's not like a teacher is a student. It's a different type of relationship. It's a relationship I'd categorize as has a. A teacher has a student, not is a, has a. This is a different type of relationship. This is known as association, or sometimes just simplified as, whoa, that is the worst spelling ever. I can't even speak. Association or usage, okay? Sometimes also called composition. There really is a difference between those, but you get the idea, right? A teacher is a person. A teacher has a student. Alex, I saw you already jumped ahead. What did you do? Excellent. That's exactly what I want you to do. Rain, let's do the same thing. Into your code, right-click, New, Java class, and it's capital T, teacher. Oops. I need to follow my own instructions. All right, so we have created another class in our project. So now when we look at our project folder here, it is no longer just the one class. And this is now where your programming can go. When you get to your final project, this is not necessary to have multiple classes. You can always just go back to the way we started this course with one class and one. But as you start to get more organized, you'll realize that this is actually better in terms of organization to have different classes depending on the project you're making. All right, so a class extends person. So a teacher is a person. All right. Now we're going to create a different relationship. The teacher is going to have a property that we're going to make public. Okay? So we're not encapsulating it. We're not locking it away. We'll keep it public. And what it is a student. Notice that's the class, capital S. So it's not like a regular variable. It's not like an integer or a string. It's an actual other class that's our property. But let's get even fancier than that. It's not one student. It's an array of students called students. Wow, an array. Absolutely, you can use arrays with classes. And we learned about arrays in our last unit. So now I'm pulling our last unit into this as well. So now the teacher holds an array of students. Multiple students, which makes sense, right? Teachers have multiple students, and the array is good for multiple objects. Okay, let's build our constructor. Public teacher, string name, int age. That's what, when you get a teacher, you need to know their name, their age. Well, you guys don't really need to know their age. Boolean is male. That kind of is something you guys care about, is whether or not they're a male or female teacher. Maybe you don't care. But that's what we'll do when we build a teacher. When we build a teacher, just like when we build a person, we'll say this is their name, age, and gender. All right? So let's make a call to our super constructor. Name, age is male. So that will pass that data along to the superclass person and set up the person inside the teacher. Okay? So, let me try and diagram what I'm talking about here. We know what a person is. The way we made person was it contains name, which is a spot where it stores a string. It stores age, which is a spot that holds an integer. We have is male, which is a spot that holds a Boolean. We have is alive, which is a spot that holds a Boolean. These three are private. You can't get at them. They're encapsulated. Name is public. Okay? We also have methods. I'm not going to list them all. There's a bunch of methods as well. This is all inside of our person class. So when you make a person through the constructor, that data is set. All right. Shrink that down. We've now decided to make a teacher. Okay? But just a minute. Let me put that aside for a second. Inside the teacher is our class called student. And a student also holds a couple things. A student number, which is an integer, and a average, which is a double, which I'm going to make a little bit bigger because doubles are a little more accurate, plus a student is a person. So in addition to all that information, student number, average, it also holds all the stuff from the person class as well. So student is a person. So this is our student class. Okay? So I'll group that together. And I'll just sort of shrink that down, put that over to the side. So you can see here, this is our person class. This is our student class. Now let's get to our teacher class. Well, one thing we know is a teacher is a person. So once again, all of this data from person is inside of teacher. But wait, teacher also holds an array of students. So in other words, this thing here, I actually have an array of those. So not just one, but a whole bunch of them. I'll just go dot, dot, dot. All that. And all of this is what is the teacher class. So wow, we got a lot of data being organized here. Okay? In this sense, because that's how classes build off one another. So a person was our starting class, a student, which is a person, a teacher, which is a person, but holds students, which is a person. So there's a lot of data flying around there inside of that storage. So whenever we make one of these things, it is organizing the data for us. All right, back to our code. One question that needs to be answered is, in this array of students, how big is the array? How many students does it hold? So let's finish today by just setting that amount. Let's say that's, and we'll do this in the constructor. Students equals a new student array, and let's set it at 100 students. So this teacher can hold 100 students within their array. And that's where we'll end today. And tomorrow, we'll continue with this class, and this, by the way, I believe is our last class that we'll be working on to get this idea of classes down. As you can see, it can get more and more complicated, but this is a good way to stop. So can I have a verb and an adjective, please, to finish up this video for today?
Stroke.
No.
That's not very simple.
You got 3 more seconds, and then I'm just going to say it without your input. I need a verb and an adjective.
Destroy.
And the adjective?
Squeeze. Oh no. What?
Oh my God. I'm glad you guys are not writing the IB English exam right now. I need a verb and an adjective. So go ahead and destroy that
Tiny.
tiny subscribe button.